With the coming semester, there are many Chinese students going abroad to study. For a long time, the United States has been the most popular destination for them. But geopolitics is now getting in the way as the new administration in the United States steps up restrictions on Chinese businesses and academic exchanges between China and the United States as part of its broader trade war. So how exactly does the China-U.S. trade war affect the prospects of Chinese students to study in the U.S.? Before our discussion, take a look at this background.
More than 360,000 Chinese students enrolled at American colleges in the 2017-18 academic year, up from just 100,000 a decade ago. These students and the universities that host them now find themselves in the crossfire of the U.S. trade war with China. Since last year, Washington has tightened visa rules and intensified scrutiny on research collaborations between the two countries. At the same time, allegations of spying and intellectual property theft leveled by the administration against Chinese students and researchers have contributed to a hostile environment that threatens to undo years of progress. U.S. universities have tried to distance themselves from the administration's hostility. Some, including the University of California, Berkeley, Yale University, and New York University, have sent open letters to students offering support and assistance. Even so, the atmosphere adds a new level of anxiety for students and researchers. The educational exchange between China and the United States has strained many talents in the past decades. Many have made great contributions after returning to China, Chen Qiusan and Deng Chashan, to name a few. Should the free flow of knowledge, ideas, and learners be held hostage with the trade war?
So how do geopolitical tensions affect the Chinese students studying abroad, particularly inside the United States? In our Beijing studio, we have two joining us. Professor David Bartosch from the U.S. originally. Now he's teaching at Germany, okay, Beijing Foreign Studies University. Also, Wang Yan, Director of the Department for International Exchange at the National Institution for National Sciences, for Education Sciences of China. Joining us in our Beijing Gen-Y studio, Roxy Wang, founder of Xinxiang Education Consulting. She's been advising Chinese students to go abroad to study. Welcome to the three of you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, coming from China, Ms. Wang, you've been helping students try to go to the United States, but have you seen some changes of interest over the past few years in terms of their preference and of destinations? Roxy?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I've definitely witnessed some changes over the past years, and in terms of the influence of the policy, I think it's both yes and no on the influence of the students. So yes, in terms of, you know, students, the policies changes on visa rejection and on the other side of the U.S., but also no, because I've seen actually a lot of increase over the interest in students going studying abroad. So for example, a very sad example from last year was that I have a student who got into a biology graduate program at Johns Hopkins University. You know, she's extremely excellent and she's very outstanding, and she got admitted. But at last she was actually rejected at the visa part. So I think from that sense is that we could feel like a lot of students are still trying to study abroad and receiving education, but unfortunately this part will probably still pose some kind of concerns for parents and students and give them second thoughts in terms of going abroad.
When you are talking about going abroad, do you mean the United States, or do you mean abroad generally?
Right. So, I was, in that case, I was more talking about studying abroad in the U.S. So in terms of the total number of students going abroad, it's actually been increasing over years, and we could witness that. So last year we had over 500,000 students going abroad, and this year it's been increased over to 600,000. And among all of them, we have about 390,000 going to the U.S. But there are some concerns. We've witnessed, you know, certain drop in numbers in terms of students that are enrolled in the U.S. U.S.-oriented course curriculum in certain international branches of schools, but I think that's probably just for the short term as of now because of these policies and changes to roles.
Yeah, whether it's for the short term or not, let's take a look at some of the numbers we have got hold. According to a report published by the Institute of International Education, for the first time in a decade, new foreign students enrollment in American schools declined for 2 years in a row. By contrast, in the UK, however, which is also another important destination for international students, according to HESA, new international enrollment in British higher education institutions increased by 5%. Now, we are not saying, Ms. Wang, of course, all these numbers contributed as a result of the geopolitical situation going on between China and the United States or other political changes, but certainly this is quite a number to look at. Ms. Wang, what's your understanding of the impact of China-U.S. trade war, whether it's on the attitude, the mentality, feelings of students going to study or willing to study in the U.S.?
So I think
let me go to Ms. Wang here in Beijing studio, in the studio with me. I'll address both of you with your, I guess, the first name so that we know each other. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. First, I think it's impact the visa policy, because if some students, especially those apply for the high-tech related programs, could not get a visa, this probably will impact the other students' applications to study in the United States, especially if that's their preferred or expected choice of the program. And then second is the current trade war actually will have impact not only on the mentality or attitudes towards their choice of their preferred destination, because this will be associated with their expectation towards their future prospects in the destination country. For example, if they could be admitted into an ideal program, and if they could get a job even on temporary terms after graduation, and also this will involve a lot more uncertainties. So this will definitely affect their decision, the choice of the destination, if it's United States or other countries.
I see. If you look at what the American academic community has been saying over the past year, there has also been increasing concern about whether the impact of the trade war is having on the quality of students going to America and the way the students are being received in America from China. For example, in June this year, every student, faculty, and staff at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, received an email from their president. In the public lecture, president said, who is also an immigrant from Venezuela himself, he was heartbroken to hear students tell him that he feels unfairly scrutinized, stigmatized, and on edge just for being Chinese ethnicity. He said that he takes national security, risks of academic espionage very seriously, but he also said that we, according to him, take great care not to create a toxic atmosphere of unfounded suspicion and fear. By paying tribute to MIT alumni I.M. Pei, he also argued that in a nation like ours, that's what the president of the MIT said, immigration is a kind of oxygen, each fresh wave re-energizing the body as a whole. If we have part of the letter, it would be wonderful to show to our audience over there. But let me come back to you, Professor Bartosz. You corrected me at the very beginning from Germany. So would this mean great and golden opportunity for European educational institutions to have better quality of your students coming from China?
Yes, of course. And I mean, it is a big disadvantage for the U.S. I mean, it's a very wrong development, but it's not a disadvantage for the Chinese students, because they can choose where to go, and they can choose where to develop and where to bring their excellency to fruition. And I would very much invite all Chinese students also to Germany, because we don't have student fees or very low student fees. You can study in English as well. If you want to study engineering or natural science, you can study in English, or you can study the great philosophers, the German. And you have to think about, I mean, the U.S. is also very much lived on people also coming from Europe to work in U.S. academic science institutions, and many of the Nobel Prize winners came from Europe. So you can also study where these Nobel Prize winners have studied originally. So
you're already become an ambassador for educational institutions inside Germany.
That's what comes to my mind, because I think this whole development is, I cannot understand how these decisions are made, because they are for the disadvantage of the U.S., but not for the disadvantage of any Chinese students in the long run. Of course, for these poor students who are in this terrible situation at the moment, it's not a good thing too. But those who are yet in the decision process, I think, why not? I think it's also part of a larger development. I mean, we are also, when we think about studying abroad, as we just saw, many people think it's just the U.S., right? But we are more and more living in a multipolar environment. So there are Chinese students going to Russia to study in Russia. There are Chinese students going to Italy, to Germany, to Sweden, wherever.
To Japan.
To Japan, sorry. Yeah, Japan. I forgot Japan. Japan is very important, to Australia. So many possible destinations, and also more languages. I think one of the reasons for the fixation is, at the moment, is that the English language is the most the language which is dominant at the moment. But I think you can also study in English in other countries.
That's true.
Why not also studying a second
we
foreign language?
We heard your argument. You know, for those students that are studying in the U.S. campuses, a lot of them fear there will be unfounded scrutinization as a result of the trade war or increasing tension between China and the United States. From every one of you, is there any advice, if you can, 30 seconds, we're running out of time. Roxy, you go first.
So if there is any advantage of this
advice, rather.
All right, so I think in terms of all these recent changes and all these disturbances that we've seen over students, I actually do think that it's actually a good pressure that I've seen over students. So the biggest difference that I've witnessed between, students back in my time about 10 years ago versus students now is that students now are they're working extremely much harder than before in order to get into really good schools. I mean, I work with students who want to go to top 30 or even go to the top 10 students, and they're trying to really improve themselves all the way around. So I think that would probably be something that that's great actually about the students in the future.
Work harder. That's your advice, it seems. Professor Bartosz, 30 seconds.
Be open, embrace this new world situation, be flexible, also be keen maybe to learn another foreign language, be open to Europe, as I said, also
more
Japan or other countries, because that's definitely the future, and also the future where China is headed. And last thing, also we should think about how to make use of the talents who have studied abroad, and how to implement these students back in China, or how to create a new network of excellence.
It should happen on different layers, right?
Different layers.
Yeah.
The current visa policy, I believe, is probably against the will of many individual universities and also many individuals in the United States. So it really depends on who the students is studying, which universities are studying with. So if they could still stay, and then stay. If not, China will welcome them back, and also Germany will come to study there. This just opened up the door to another new world and broader horizons. Another wonderful part of life experience.
Well, very interesting. As you said, embrace the reality, because they are the realities and we live in reality. And no complaint, because that's probably going to bring us more options. Thank you so much, Wang Yan, Roxy Wang, last but not least, David Bartosz. Really appreciate it.